That's one of the new Carbon Smugglers. All right, so I'm here at the DuPont State Forest. There's the infamous Ridgeline Trail. Get a very brief gravel road warm up here. We're gonna cut left on Jim Branch and check out the climbing chops of this thing right out of the gate. Hit this rock staircase. Definitely need the rear of the bike to be supple here. Felt good. Whoo! As you can see, a lot of the trails here are the sort of smooth, hard packed with some roots mixed in. Some of my faster times here were actually done on a Kona Hey, which, as you probably know, is a pretty lightweight but also pretty capable short travel 29er. This trail is really well suited for that sort of bike, but I always find myself wanting to over fork those bikes and slacken them out a degree or two. You know, the Hey, I think stock was 67 degrees. I wanted to put a 1 degree angled headset on it. Instead of a 120, I put a 130 fork on it. Well, this bike out of the gate comes with a 65 degree head tube angle, which is super right in the sweet spot for just general trail riding. And it pairs well with a relatively steep seat tube angle, puts you in a nice centered over the bottom bracket position for your seated endeavors like this. And so what I'm hoping for the Smuggler is that it gets me that lightweight 29er, relatively short travel feeling with the snappy pedaling and acceleration that you can really only get on one of those type bikes, but without having to modify it in the head tube angle or the fork right out of the gate. The initial assessment of the climbing is that it's pretty spry. These reserve carbons, pretty lightweight. They're sliding in about 1,600 grams. It's a lot of what you feel on a bike, and how fast it feels is your rotating weight. So how is it compared to the Spur? It's close, especially as I have it built. I think if you got one of these in the stock setup where it's got an assegai on the front, it's not gonna be. The cool thing is, your couple key components changes away from getting this thing to where it approximates it, but still to me has a more favorable geometry. All right, so that rounds out the climbing. Let's get into some flow. Definitely quick to accelerate. All right, it's actually a really cool downhill on Locust. Oh, almost cleared those roots. I've struggled with that before on even bigger bikes. And rear end of this bike actually feels really good. Surprisingly, it feels kind of supple. Actually felt really good. All right, so I'm here on Hilltop Trail. It's actually kind of tough, not because it's overly technical. There's flow to be had if you can maintain speed. It's super exerting. Swing out wide, bunny hop up and on, set you up a little bit better. Woo! Nice. Man, that's a fun section. Definitely glad I didn't get a size large. I can already tell that. The front end is adequately far out in front. I already feel like I'm holding a little better pace through here than I would on bigger bikes I've been on more recently. Yeah, regarding the shape and the geometry, I'm glad it is what it is. I wouldn't want it to be any slacker for what it is. Big hit through the rear travel. Front did okay, but it didn't feel like it slammed through the rear travel. Probably could use a spacer. So check this out, Ruffled Grouse Trail. I don't know that it's one of the more popular trails here in DuPont, but I love it. There's just lots of little rollers and humps. But again, it's one of those trails that I think this bike is gonna be great for. Just like right there, you gotta give a lot to get a lot. You gotta pull hard out of these corners, some of these flatter sections, to hold a fun pace. Corner's good. Just that acceleration right there, so good. Nice. I think I made a good selection on the fork on this bike. Yeah, love it. Pump that one for speed. Oh, this trail's a blast. This bike is really doing it justice. Like right here, need a little speed. A lot easier on this bike. Oh yeah, that was a blast. So I am perpetually between a medium and a large, depending on brands, but considering my goals for this bike to have a really playful, nimble bike, combined with Transition actually upping the medium to a 460, I can already tell you, I'm glad I went with the medium. All right, so rounding out climbs here in DuPont to get you to the top of Rocky Ridge. Rocky Ridge is an absolute blast. I apologize, I have trouble doing it justice. This tests your cornering skills as much as any trail I know of in the area. Oh, nice little drop. Love to get faster at it. Like these corners. They're so tough. Didn't do good there. Woo. Sorry for this horrendous look at Rocky Ridge. Definitely not the bike's fault. The bike feels good. Yeah. So I'm on mile 11, about to roll into Hooker Creek. Sorry for the rattling. Bike feels really balanced. Nice. All right, folks, trail that absolutely needs no introduction, and certainly not a bad ride video by me. Ridgeline. I don't know what bikes the faster times on this trail are, but if you told me it were done on cross-country race bikes, I would believe it. This trail, you need a bike with good support and something that's just fast. There's nothing overly technical, just a lot of fast rolling trail where you can grab a ton of speed if you can pump and push through turns. Bike is feeling great. Feels like it's made for this sort of thing. Wheelbase is short enough, especially for me being on a size medium, that I feel like I can get through these tighter sections a little easier. And then the acceleration is there for these few flat sections. Woo, you can get going fast there, especially if you pump instead of jump. Always struggle with these turns. Not bad. Oh yeah. Man, I knew this bike would be fun on this trail. It's actually exceeding my expectation. Just cornering so good. There it is, folks. Ridgeline. Woo! It's been a while since I've ridden a bike, especially on its first ride when I had virtually no complaints. I'm gonna have to say this Smuggler checks a lot of boxes off in a good way for me. For one, the sizing. For me, coming in at just over 5'9" with about a 31-inch inseam, this medium is spot on, whereas I'm often tempted to size up to a large. And then going right along with that, the geometry, that 65-degree head tube angle, really does feel like that's the sweet spot for a trail bike. Combine that with whatever the seat tube angle is, I don't remember, but it is nice and steep. The seated pedaling position is awesome, but then it feels like it's properly slack compared to those even shorter travel bikes, even the Spur. It just feels like it's more properly slack for when you do get on those steeper sections and for when the going gets a little bit rougher. One key point that I think is a big time pro of this bike is that I can run a 210 dropper post. I can get the saddle way out of my way. And then finally, the suspension kinematics. If you look a few years back, you would find that many on, say, their Sentinels, they were wanting more progression and they were running cascade links to be able to up the progression in the rear suspension. Absolutely not an issue on the Smuggler. There's just loads of progression. I only took it through its travel one time, but going through the rollers, going through the berms, I felt like there was a lot of mid-stroke support, and that was with virtually no tuning with the shock. Basically set the sag and went for the rip, and really it just felt super dialed. So for the negatives, guys, I really can't think of anything super noteworthy. I mean, this thing really seems dialed. It really seems like they waited to release this bike until it was near perfect. I guess if I were being super picky, and this doesn't relate to the ride quality at all, I do wish Transition would release their carbon bikes, at least with the option to get a gloss finish. While this sort of matte finish in the espresso color looks way better in person, it almost has like a bronze sheen to it, looks really good in person, I still wouldn't mind having an option for a gloss paint. Sometimes I think it's just a little bit more durable, but obviously this is not a long-term review. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. As always, thanks for watching.